Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Mayor and City Council work session. Begin at 5:30 p.m. Our first agenda item is ordinance number 2022, an ordinance amending the general operating budget and capital improvement program of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland for the fiscal year July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, and to provide an effective date. Director Saylor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mayor Sidnor, council members. I appreciate this opportunity for you to consider ordinance 2022. It's our third amendment for FY 2024. This amendment is limited to just the capital programs. On page 3 of this ordinance, you'll see the changes and the additions. In FY 23, the CIP was approved with Van Dusen Road project funded by ARPA funds. As you know, there's a certain segment of the ARPA funds that have a greater flexibility and can be used for infrastructure and to be used in place of as revenue loss that we incurred during COVID. So that was all under the federal guidelines for the ARPA funds. So there were projects in the 23 CIP that were funded with ARPA money. What I have here is proposed that we not fund Van Dusen Road with the ARPA funds. As you know, you've approved engineering work to be done on the project. There are deadlines for the encumbrance and use of the funds. So would propose to transfer the balance of the Van Dusen ARPA funds to the Laurel Multi-Service Center and the renovations that are taking place at 204 Fort Meade Road. So then you'll see under the LMSC addition of the former Van Dusen Road funds that I'm adding back Van Dusen Road. But as we'll discuss in ordinance 2023, I'm proposing that we finance the Van Dusen Road project, as well as Carriage Hill Lane, Carriage Hill Drive, 8th Street, 1st Street, Little Montgomery Street, Park Avenue, fleet equipment acquisition based on our replacement schedule, major facility maintenance, and updates to the city-owned facility HVAC systems. So that's an overall change of $8,370,587. And those additional projects are proposed to be funded through the financing in ordinance 2023.
Thank you, Director.
Questions for on the projects?
Director, I'll start. If you could give some of the newer council members some background on the ARPA funds and how that encumbrance works. I know that those of us that were on the council before have a little bit more background on that, but can you explain the deadlines and how that works?
Yes, sir. So the deadlines for the ARPA funds are that we at least encumber the money by December 31st of 2024. We're working towards a June 30 goal here because there's reporting to be done and paperwork to be processed. So we don't want to run up against the December 31st deadline. So encumbered by this December, but completely finished being spent, money out the door by December 31st of 2026. And because the Van Dusen Road is currently under engineering, you know, we're just not sure what that's going to look like and don't really want to press as far as those deadlines, and then not being able to readjust those funds to something else. I feel as though it's better to do it now to reallocate to the center where we know that that work is underway. Well, it's more than underway. It's, you know, we're knee deep there. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Director. Any questions from the council? Any comments?
Hi, I do have a question. I just want to make sure, is there a reason why we are using these funds? Did we already have them managed properly regarding the finances? I feel like I know the answer, but I think it's good for the public to hear. It wasn't an issue of managing, it's just that we needed these funds for additional resources.
Yes, I feel as though right now with that work going on at the center, that it's better to reallocate the funds when we don't quite know how long the engineering is going to take for Van Dusen Road, and then what the timeline looks like as far as the work itself being done. You know, once the engineers are done and specifications are produced, we put it out to bid, you know, that whole process. I'm not sure what that looks like on the other end as far as timing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes.
Director Saylor, just so that I'm clear, the ARPA funds are use it or lose it. If we don't encumber them, we have to give it back to the federal government.
Yes, sir.
So by reallocating these, we're keeping the money in the city.
Yes.
Thank you, Director. Councilwoman Johnson?
So in addition to, asking for the bond amount, do we have a payment schedule in place to pay it back in a time frame?
I don't, council member. We don't currently have the amortization schedule yet. That will come after they're able to sell the bonds. And I'll go through that process as we discuss Ordinance 2023. But no, we do not have that schedule yet. But I have identified funds, moving forward from debt that we previously paid off in 2022 that was kept in the budget and used for capital projects that we will be able to then in 2025 reallocate back to the debt service budget to make those payments.
And this may be like a loaded question. I don't know exactly how to answer it, but like what time frame have we, like how much debt have we ever been in like at one time? What is the most debt the city has been in at one time?
The most, I'd have to look for you. We have participated in the program I am proposing previously in 2004, 2007, 2012, 2016, and in 2017 we refinanced the 2007 funds. But at any one time, I can look for that and get back to you to see.
I'd just be comparing it to because I see with these ordinance number 2022 and 2023 would have a debt totaling 13,900,000, just to see, like, is that normal? Is that more than what we usually have? Or just wanted to know that when you have a chance to get it. But
if I could step in just to keep everybody on the same agenda, I think we kind of jumped from ordinance number 2022 to ordinance number 2023. Are there any other questions on 2022 before we jump into the ordinance number 2023 and an explanation on the bonds and the program, kind of what Councilmember Johnson was asking about? Hearing none, I will turn it over to Director Saylor for ordinance number 2023, ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland, Infrastructure Bonds 2024 Series AA, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland, a municipal corporation of the state of Maryland, the issuer, providing for the issuance and sale of an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $8,400,000 of bonds of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland, to be known as the Mayor and City Council of Laurel Infrastructure Bonds 2024 Series A, or by such other or additional designations as required by the Community Development Administration identified herein. The bonds to be issued and sold pursuant to the authority of sections 4-101 through 4-2055 of the Housing and Community Development article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, as amended for the purpose of 1, providing all or a portion of funds necessary for financing and refinancing the following projects facilities improvement, fleet acquisition, and street improvements, funding and a portion of capital reserve fund and or other reserves, and paying issuance and other costs related to the bonds, providing that the bonds shall be issued upon the full faith and credit of the issuer, providing for the disbursement of the proceeds of the sale of the bonds and for the levy of annual taxes upon all assessable property within the corporate limits of the issuer for the payment of the principal and interest on the bonds as they shall respectively mature, providing for the form, tenure, denomination, maturity date, and dates and other provisions of the bonds, providing for the sale of the bonds, and providing for related purposes, including without limitation, the method of fixing the interest rate or the rates to be borne by the bonds, the approval, execution, and delivery of documents, agreements, certificates, and instruments of the making of or providing for the making of representations and covenants concerning the tax status of interest on the bonds. Director Saylor, can you please put that in plain text for us?
Sorry, that's the state required ordinance. So as I was saying, we've participated in this program a number of times over the years since 2004. The Department of Housing, Community Development Administration administers this program. So because of our relationship in the past with them, although they will send out information to other jurisdictions, soliciting our participation in their program. There's an application to fill out. We need to tell them what projects we would be funding. It's not just some blanket amount. It, as you saw, is the projects enumerated in Ordinance 2022. And so there are 5 other jurisdictions participating at this time, and the costs for bond counsel and other fees for the closing costs of the bonds will be allocated based on our share of the total bond sale. So the people I'm dealing with are state employees. They run the bond sale, and then they will provide us with documents, closing documents that the mayor and I will need to execute. And that's what this ordinance does. It has you to approve this action by us participating in this program to finance these projects, as we have done in the past. So the bond sale will be conducted. Like I said, there'll be closing documents that we'll need to execute. The funds, will be maintained in a separate bank account by the state. So if when we're ready to do Van Dusen Road, Mr. Miller comes to you with a bid recommendation, and then we will draw down on those funds. We don't get the whole $8 million at one time. So we'll draw down while the funds are sitting in the bank account. They'll earn interest, which the state will credit towards our debt service. So we'll be budgeting for the full amount of the debt service, but there is potential until we get underway with some of these projects, that it'll continue to earn interest, and we'll get credits on the debt service.
Thank you, Director.
And I will just add that the project sheets that were attached to 2022, I also provided project sheets for future projects that were provided by Public Works based on the non-destructive pavement evaluation. So if there are any savings on these initial projects, as long as the project is contained within our CIP, we can use savings to further the use of any money to do these other projects.
Thank you. I will open the floor to the council members for any questions. I know this is a big project with a lot of complex parts. So questions from the council?
I have a question. Is there a way that the public can view how these funds are being utilized? Will it be located on our website? Will it be separated in a document that they can view in case they have any questions or wonder how we're spending these funds?
I believe we could put all these documents on the website, Ms. Clark.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Director Saylor, I have a question on this. So we get the entire amount of the bond sale and we draw down on it as we need it. Do we start paying on the amortization schedule after they're issued or once we start drawing down?
No, we'll be scheduled for the first payment in November, regardless of how much we've drawn.
Okay.
And the payments are twice a year, November and May.
Okay. But we don't know how much those amounts will be yet.
Not yet.
Other questions or comments from the council?
I may have something to say, Mr. President, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Just to give Councilman Johnson some clarity, I believe that, like you said, you mentioned by the time we borrow this $8 million, we'll be only like $13 million in debt. And that's not unusual. That's a small amount of debt based on our assessment of the city. We got, according to, I talked to Dr. Sales earlier today, and our assessment is like $3.5 billion. You know, so that can be, we can be in debt for like $100 and some million. So $13 million is peanuts right there. But so we will borrow money from time to time to do projects. You know, we could do several ways though, but this is not unusual. Like you said, we've done it in 2017, 2007. We've done it in 2012. We've done it in 2016. So it's not unrealistic for a city to borrow money and be in debt. But being $13 million in debt is, you know, compared to, that's very small. So I think we're doing a great job at managing our finances and how we borrow money and paying our loans off as well. So the public listen to that as well. So it's nothing unusual to borrow money to work on projects that need to be fixed now. You know, we could, you know, put the money aside 4 or 5 years from now, but the streets will be deteriorating. The cost of projects, stuff, material be more expensive. So it's at a time that, you know, the state is loaning us money and we're taking advantage of it. And that answers your question.
Well, just for clarification, I didn't think it was unusual to be in debt. I was just, like I said, questioning the amount, like if we've ever been in that much debt before, just as a city.
We could be $112 million in debt according to the state if we, based on our assessment, but we never going to be that much in debt. No.
Okay.
I think to re-clarify a question to try and make it easier for the public. So the city does not take out loans. We take out bonds.
Well, this will be considered a loan with the state program.
Yep.
The state is going to be the one to do the bond sale. We could do our own, but it's very, very intricate and there's a lot of work involved. The CDA has a group that is has that expertise with the bond markets and all the legalities. So for us, it's the loan.
Making sure. Thank you. Any other questions from council? All right. With nothing else on the work session agenda, we will take a brief pause and resume at 6 o'clock for the Marin City Council meeting. Thank you.